the main takeaway is the guys that we went out and got and that we targeted, we drafted, we signed, we re-signed, they all did what we want them to do, what they were signed to do, what they're on the team to do, what we need them to do, what we want them to do. And Williams and Lively look like they are ready to fill the gaps that we have so bad on this team, and they're ready to excel at it.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Don't lose your life.
All right, guys, it's time for my favorite subject, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to give my thoughts on Game 1 real quick. Before we do that, housekeeping. I'm going to try and stream half the games this year. I kind of fell off last year. Just got busy with stuff and, whatnot. So I'm going to try and stream half of the Mavs games this year. I'll do my best. You never know what happens, right? But I will probably not stream the game tonight, Friday. However, I will stream both of the games next week. I think it's Monday and Wednesday next week. I will definitely stream both of those. So there's that. Secondly, I'm wearing the Pits. As you can see, Rangers are in Game 1 of the World Series tonight. If you guys could send them some good vibes or best wishes, I would appreciate that. And if they lose the series or lose tonight, then obviously it's your guys' fault. So that's what I'm going to go with. All right, I tried to make this video like 4 or 5 times, and there's so much I want to say. I had to kind of stop myself, condense it a little bit. I got my notes here. I watched the game twice. I'm going to have just a few highlights in the video as we go of some things that I saw that I liked, or just maybe some more of the popular moments, correct? So that being said, let's get started. I'm actually going to start with Jason Kidd and coaching. My biggest critiques of Jason Kidd have always been this. He is an overarching trend styles players coach, right? I do not think he is very good in tight spots, end of a quarter, end of a half, end of the game, out of a timeout, making adjustments, things of that nature, right? I don't think he is the best X's and O's, draw up and out of bounds play kind of guy. I don't think he is a, hey, we need a bucket, here's the sprinkle we've been working on, we have to get a bucket right here, right? This is what we worked on in practice out of this set that we run a lot, or something like that, right? He is just not the best game-to-game strategy, X's and O's, execution kind of coach, right? I think he is an egos coach, a players coach, a styles coach. He's hoping in the end his style will kind of play out over the long run, right? Which is fine. But in spots, right, in every game there's always going to be a spot or two where the coach has the ability to put his fingerprints on the game in a major way, right? That being said, the second critique I have of him in terms of coaches putting fingerprints on the game, Jason Kidd is horrible with timeouts. He is in my opinion, the worst coach at preventing a run before it gets started, or he uses them too late after the damage has kind of been done, and you've put yourself in a hole or a deficit that's going to be hard to get out of, correct? He is not good with timeouts. He just does not execute them or use them to the best of his ability, in my opinion, correct? That being said, last night I saw many changes in terms of those things with the coaching that I liked. In the third quarter, they call a timeout. I believe we'd been up 3. We go down 4 real quick, right? Like a quick 7-0 run. Again, we're only down 4. In Jason Kidd's world last year, that's nothing. You might as well be up 10 if you're down 4 with the old Jason Kidd. And by old Jason Kidd, I just mean last year. We go down 4. He calls a timeout, right? He feels the run coming. They go on a little spurt. And he calls a great timeout when we're only down 4. He gets ahead of it, cuts the head off the snake. And out of that timeout, they have a play. Maxey kind of catches the ball on the right wing. Kyrie comes around for a pick, and he's going to kind of make the defender who's guarding the wing make a decision. Is he going to pick up Kyrie, or is he going to let Kyrie perhaps get around this pick uncontested and get a shot at going to the hole, right? And Kyrie Irving, obviously, in terms of guards who can finish around the rim, is amongst one of the best we've ever seen, right? And he proved it again Wednesday night. He had a couple just plays, you just shake your head out. It seems like every game he's got one or two layups that you just shake your head out and you can't really explain how he finessed it up there. But anyways, the guy comes over to help on Kyrie, coming off the handoff pick, coming around Maxey. The guy picks him up, just a little easy out pass to Green. He hits a three, right? To anyone, that might seem like the most basic play, right? But for what I have seen last year from Kidd, calling that timeout, stopping the run, and then it having some little bit of a different wrinkle that's not Luka Doncic pick and roll or go one-on-one, right, out of the timeout, and you get it right back to within one with that three, right? That isn't a snapshot I thought was a huge difference from Jason Kidd than what I've seen last year or so far, right? And he had another good timeout in the second quarter, I believe. Again, we only went down like 3 or 4, right? Or 5, something like that. And he immediately calls a timeout because it's about to get out of hand, right? You as a player and a coach, like one of your jobs, right, is to feel out the game. What is happening? And in terms of being a coach, you cannot let the other team go on a 10-0, 12-0, 14-2 run, something like that, and not, give your team a little bit of a life jacket in a way and say, okay, let's take a break. They just went on a 6-0 run. They're up 5 or 4 now. Let's call it now. Let's regroup. Let's not let this home crowd and the Spurs just start to get, that kind of exponential confidence when you start to go on a run and everyone thinks they can just, essentially hit a shot from anywhere, right? The basket starts to look like an ocean you're just trying to throw the ball into sometimes when it gets like that, right? So that was a big difference with Kidd. I thought Kidd did amazing with his timeouts and the play coming out of the timeout in the third quarter. Certain adjustments. He felt the lineup out. He adjusted there. He went with what was working. I think Kidd is very good with messing with lineups, but at the same time, I don't think Kidd likes to get outside of his comfort zone. Like, I don't think Kidd really trusts young players that much, right? That was always a knock on Carlisle a little bit. And I think Kidd has that same issue. I don't think he fully wants to let a younger guy just get 25 plus minutes and see if he can learn on the fly or if he can, blossom into something, that you might have held back for a year or two, right? That wouldn't have happened, right? I think he has that issue too. I don't think he's, again, that creative on the offensive end. So again, Kids had what I saw last night. Kidd stepped outside of his comfort zone a little bit, tried some different things, maybe went with something he wouldn't have done last year, starting Lively in the second half. I think that's a little uncharacteristic of Jason Kidd as well. All of those things are good changes from him and from the coaching staff in general. I don't know if someone got in his ear. I don't know if he's got another coach that he hired that just said, hey, run's coming, you need to call a timeout. That's his only job, right? But changes were had on the bench by the coaching staff that I really liked. Also, with that being said, I was not that surprised with the starting lineup. Kidd said he was going to experiment with it for the first 10 or so games. Jones starting was a little surprising. I didn't see that, but I think that was a specific case in terms of certain packages or looks they were trying to give Victor, and I think they kind of admitted that. So I think Jones is kind of a one-off with that, and that's why he was in the game, right? He didn't end up playing very many minutes. He only played 12 minutes, right? So I don't think that's a real thing going forward. So there's that. I wasn't too shocked with the lineup. I like that they gave Maxey a start. I thought shows a little bit of confidence in him. I think he still needs to find his legs just a little bit, still coming off that injury from last year, just sort of like, game time, can he give us 30-minute legs, that kind of thing, right? And again, Maxey did play 23 minutes, right? And I think that's about where he needs to be, but I don't think he's to the point yet where if we need him to play 30 minutes, right? I just feel like that's where he's kind of on that edge of, can he go a hard 30 minutes, etc., right? So for him to start, I thought was good. Little vote of confidence there for him. I was fine with that. So let's get into the game, right? First quarter was pretty bad on defense, specifically the first half of the first quarter. Just felt like there was not a lot of resistance there. We only ended up down 7 in the first. That's not too bad considering it felt like we were down 20. The way the pace of the game was going, just felt like they were getting easy looks and we were struggling to get good shots, right? And just over a course of a game, that's going to kill you, right? So it felt like we weren't in control. It felt like they were getting what they wanted. We were struggling to get what we wanted. The pace was in their favor, all that kind of stuff, right? Obviously, Kyrie did not have a very good shooting game, although in the end, he had 5 crucial points in a row. In my opinion, that sealed it. But with that being said, though, about midway through the first quarter, you get Lively and Green in. Luka takes a break. I thought that was another interesting thing. Luka playing 34 minutes, Kyrie playing 36, I think is a huge difference. Now, they said he had a little bit of a calf strain, maybe they're trying to work him in a little bit, and he'll get up to 38 minutes, 40 minutes, what have you. I would like it if he stays in this 34-minute range. That's my opinion. I think that pays dividends throughout the year. And remember, going into the playoffs, we need a healthy and rested and energetic Luka and Kyrie, right? They cannot be going into the playoffs on fumes, right? That's why I think one of the reasons why that Western Conference Finals run was so crazy, besides the fact of what Luka did and how that team sort of came together at the right moment, it felt like that was all fumes, right? Because Mavericks are just essentially riding, Luka. Again, Kyrie wasn't there that year. They're essentially just riding one horse to the Western Conference Finals, and it just felt like we were on fumes there at the end of the year, and to go that far was pretty incredible, right? We can't have that, right? One of the big things about Kyrie is hopefully they can share that, whatever you consider to be a all-star, superstar caliber load, they can share that and, take different weights at times from each other, relieve the pressure. That's what I'm hoping Kyrie does in the long run, or at least for the next year or two with Luka, right? So seeing him play 34 minutes, I hope that's a new trend. I hope that's not a one-off or a two-off as they work him back in, but I hope that's an actual new trend. Keeping him under 36 minutes would be nice. That'd be great if we could do that, right? So that was the other thing. Then, right at the end of the first quarter, Luka and Lively catch their first lob with each other.
Stein went under both of those ball screens, and Jones with the confident stroke.
Wow, speaking of confidence, how about Lively climbing the ladder?
They tried one earlier. You could see Luka had tried to find Lively, but it got swatted down by the guy guarding Luka. Luka might have tried to force it a little bit, I'm not sure. But, a few minutes later, they connect on their first alley-oop right at the end of the first quarter. And again, we go down 7. The second quarter, well, first of all, before I get to second quarter, sorry, I keep forgetting to mention this. My player to watch right now, or the one that I am most intrigued by in terms of being such an X factor or an unknown streaky player, that kind of thing, is Tim Hardaway Jr. If I remember right, he's getting paid about 16, 18 million a year, something like that. He makes a lot of money for a guy coming off the bench who produces what he does or doesn't, right? He, to me, is the most intriguing player to me because there's so many things we could do with him, right? Let's say the worst case scenario, he just kind of disappears as the year goes on, and he just kind of gets lost on the bench in a way. If that happens, I'm hoping that means Green, Williams, maybe someone else has stepped up and is really playing well, right? And Tim Hardaway Jr. is just not finding the minutes for what he's producing, right? Secondly, let's say he plays well, which I think from what I saw last night, right, Tim Hardaway is going to get plenty of open looks, I'm hoping. And I think he's a good enough spot-up shooter to make him count. And if that happens, it's very interesting because Tim Hardaway Jr. does have a little bit of a skill set that other teams might want or need. And I don't know if what he brings to the Mavericks now, after kind of Green's maturing a little bit, we got Williams, Kyrie, and Luka. Jaden Hardy's coming up, who I like and I'm very high on. The window for Tim Hardaway Jr. and the Mavericks, might be a small window. He might, as the year goes on, he might find himself with a little bit less of a role. But if he's playing well, he can become some decent trade bait to somebody. And I would love to trade Tim Hardaway. In my opinion, if we can trade for him and put something together to get another guy, I would like that. Again, if he plays decent and stays, that's good too, right? But I think that's just my opinion. I think he's the most intriguing to see. And the reason why I bring him up is with a minute to go, or within the first minute of the second quarter, Tim Hardaway Jr. gets his 15th point. With it, again, coming off the bench, he's only played like 8 or 10 minutes at this point. He's got 15 points with a minute or two into the second quarter. And then he finishes the game with 17, right? This is why Tim Hardaway Jr. I think is easily the most frustrating player. If you're an actual Mavs fan and you're kind of dissecting the roster, I think he is maybe the most frustrating at times because, again, he can give you 15 points in 10 minutes, or he can give you 2 points for the rest of the game. That is the life and times of having Tim Hardaway Jr. on your team, right? So, in my opinion, if he can kind of get hot at the right time and we can trade him, that is my preferred outcome, depending on what we get. I would like to make one more move for something that maybe the front office thinks we need. I'm not sure what that would be, but maybe just take the best thing you think you can get. I think another big or power forward would be nice if we could somehow get that. That would be, I think, very good in terms of a best case scenario, right? But other than that, he just needs to hit threes. But I just bring Tim Hardaway Jr. up real quick because 15 points with a minute or two into the second quarter, and the rest of the game you only get you 2, right? That's just perfectly encapsulates what I'm trying to describe with frustration with Tim Hardaway Jr., right? I think in the midway through the fourth, he missed like 3 or 4 pretty wide open threes within like a 1 or 2 minute span. You know what I'm saying? If he just hits 1 or 2 of those, the game is over, right? The game kind of all of a sudden gets into double digits and it becomes sort of a different game, correct? So that's Tim Hardaway Jr. in a nutshell. He right now with the 1 game sample size, which I know is nothing, he intrigues me in terms of what's going to happen to him as the season goes on. So that's my rant about Tim Hardaway. So sorry you had to listen to that. So I thought we won the game at the end of the second quarter. I thought that was the game. Once you could look back and dissect it, the end of the second quarter was the game. We were down 12 points with a minute 13 to go. And then at a minute 13, Luka hits 2 free throws, and him and Grant Williams get us to within 4. Within a minute 13, we go on an 8-0 run to go, instead of being down 12 at half, we're down 4 at half, right? I thought that was the game. That was everything where you saw what Grant Williams could do, a couple defensive plays. Him and Luka hit some shots. Lively has some good production there, getting around the rim, having an altered shot here or there, right? That right there, I thought was everything that we are excited about right now as a Mavs fan came in the last minute 30 of the first half and the last like 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. That is literally that 5 minutes right there is what we are excited about, right? So we go into half down 4. A good run at the end. I thought that was all the difference. Just the way we scored those 8 points. Defense, hustling, getting some loose balls, hitting threes, getting some shots, right? It was just a great sort of momentum change right there at the end of the half, correct? So then we go into the third. We ended the third. Remember, we were down 4. We ended the third up 4, 95-91. I thought Green had a good third quarter, good hustle. You saw what he could do. They just gave him an extension as well. So I think they must believe in him. I do think the starting 5... I don't want to say the starting 5 because I do think Kidd loves to experiment with starting lineups. Even if he knows there's a better starting lineup, if that makes sense. It's almost like he just wants to know everything he's got, right? He wants to see it all with different settings and matchups and all kinds of things, right? Which I think as a fan frustrates you, but I think as a basketball guy, I do kind of like, I kind of, I don't know how to put that, but I think it keeps things fresh in a way. Again, he starts someone like Jones. He only plays 12 minutes, right? So it's not as if he starts 5 guys and he's like, I'm going to stick with these 5 for the whole game because I started them, right? I don't think he thinks like that. I think he just wants to see it, and I think the start of the game is the best time to experiment and see it. And, if guys think they can start, that might keep things a little competitive, a little fresh. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it, but I don't mind it either, right? But I do think the 5 that will finish games, from what I can see right now, will be the 5 who finished mainly the first half minus Tim Hardaway, and then the guys who finished the game. And that is Kyrie and Luka at the 1 and 2, obviously. You get Williams and Green at the 3 and 4. Again, they're pretty versatile. They can switch. But you'd have Green at the 3, Williams at the 4. Williams might be a little bit of an undersized 4, but he can also stretch the floor. So that is a little bit of a counteraction there as well as he's a good defender, right? So I'm not too worried about that. And you get Lively at the 5, correct? I think, again, 1 game sample size, but even going into the year, I thought that would ultimately be our best 5, correct? Mainly our starting 5, but more importantly, the guys who finish games. And you do not draft a guy like Lively, number 10, and without plans for him to contribute significant minutes. And considering we are as bad as we are in the front court, he is going to start. I mean, that was my thought going in. It might take a week or 2, right? Worst case scenario. It looks like it won't take that long now, but I thought the goal is for him to start, right? That is really, you're almost forced to with the number 10 pick, right? And Hardy, I think a guy, again, he's in his second year. I just really think those 2 guys, along with some of the other guys, I think we got some young guys who can come in and do some things. And I think Hardy, we drafted at the end of the first round, went to the G League. He dominated, did really good, played some games with us last year. But he's officially on the team now. So is Lively, Omax, all these other guys. So I think I like where this roster's at right now, right? So that's just overall, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. So, we go into the 4th. Wemby picks up an early 5th foul in the 4th, literally within a minute of the 4th. That was big. And on Wemby, I think he looks good. I think, even when LeBron came in, there were at times he looked hesitant or unsure. Wemby doesn't look like even that. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as LeBron or anything like that, but he's played pro basketball now for a couple of years, right? He is ready. Like he's totally up for the challenge now. I thought mentally and physically he didn't hesitate. He looked sure of himself. Could be finesse, could be strength, but he looked good. I mean, I haven't watched a whole lot of his tape because if you don't play college ball in the U.S., I just don't follow a lot of international ball like on a day-to-day basis, right? And so I kind of just wanted to wait to see him until he got here, and he played the Mavs opening night, which was great timing. So I thought he looked good. I thought he looks ready. He looks pro. He's pro, right? Like he's here. He's ready. He's playing. Same thing with Luka, right? I mean, these guys who are 18, 19, coming out of Europe sometimes, they've played already 3 or 4 years of pro ball at sometimes, right? So these guys have been playing with grown men, right? Maybe not the NBA, but they've been playing against 25, 30-year-olds at the highest level over in Europe, and they're ready. So I thought he looked good. So real quick, in the 4th, I want to comment on Lively, a couple stats. Again, people have commented on Lively, but a couple things he did in the 4th that I liked. He had, and these were all crucial, he had 2 tip outs that led to extra shots and or points. And he also had 1 altered shot and a block on the same play back-to-back. Crucial within the last 2 minutes on defense. He also had 1 offensive rebound that I believe he kicked out to Luka with 1:30 to go, something like that, and essentially got us a 3 or another shot, I believe. That is the kind of stuff that has killed Dallas the last year or two, is just no front court, no extra shots. Guys get extra shots on us when they get offensive rebounds. We have been lacking in the rebounding department for the last year or two. So it was good to see plays like that in crucial moments, right? To have a big provide us some of those things, and it was just very nice to see. It was a new thing to see that we haven't seen in a while. So that's why I pointed those out. I love big guys who get you second opportunities like that, 2 tip outs. I'm not sure if those are stats. They should be, like tips that lead to offensive rebounds. Maybe they are. I'm just not aware of it. And he also had 1 offensive rebound as well that I think led to a 3. So those were nice on Lively. Those are actually the things I wanted to mention on Lively. I believe it starts at about 3:20. Green had also just had a tip that led to an offensive rebound. I don't believe we make the shot. Green again tries to get a tip on the ball to give us an extra shot. He hurts his ankle a little bit or kind of bumps, and San Antonio's going back the other way now. He gets up, he hustles, he's kind of limping a little bit. He ends up tipping a pass or a bad pass that leads up to being a turnover on San Antonio. Dallas picks it up, goes the other way. I thought that was when the run started, right? Green gets hurt, goes down for just a second, kind of gets up, hobbles up, makes a play on defense. We come back at 2:34. We sub in the final 5 that I was talking about. It's going to be Kyrie, Luka, Williams, Green, and Lively. I think those are your final 5. I think that is our best rotation of a starting 5, in my opinion. 2:19 is when Luka has the drive to the hole. He kind of hesitates in the lane, or decelerates as they're calling it. He kind of holds up. Guy hits him in the back. He gets an and 1. That play was largely because of Lively. Again, there were many times last night, and this is why it's been frustrating as a Maverick with no front court, is we feel like we don't need the best front court guy. We don't need the biggest guy, the best center. We need a guy who can catch lobs, soak up the middle when Luka comes off that pick and roll, right? Tyson Chandler type. We don't need you to be able to knock down a 15-footer. You don't have to have the best footwork or have the most finesse. We need you to be able to soak up space and just be a presence and catch lobs, right? Second chance opportunities, rebounding, and that's essentially what we need. And a little bit of rim protection. Don't have to be an amazing shot blocker, right? But on that play where Luka rolls, he gets hit in the back, gets an and 1. A lot of that is because Lively had been very active, rolling to the basket, being aggressive, looking for it. There were even a couple times where Luka drove. There was one where he tried to wrap around a defender to get it to Lively. I don't think he was quite ready for it. Another one where Luka was kind of going to the basket and he kind of throws it behind him and it goes right by Lively's head, like right over his head. And so those things will get better with time, right? Even with that being said, the defense was still paying attention to Lively, and if Lively can do what he did going forward on Wednesday, that's a scary two-headed monster to look at coming down the lane in Luka and Lively, right? And we just need Lively to keep being aggressive, right? I almost don't care even if you miss the dunk or the alley-oop in a way, right? I just want the defense to know that you're lurking around there and you're going to get some if they don't pay attention, right? And Lively did that really well. Defense had to kind of pick one. They hesitated. Luka had a wide open shot. And when he's that wide open, he's going to get creative. Again, slowed down, got the and 1. The game is neck and neck at this point, and Luka, after that and 1, even looks to the crowd and I think gives him a little like boo-hoo. It was very funny. That's what I love about Luka, that we never saw anything like that from Dirk this young, right? There's no way Dirk would have ever done anything like that to the crowd or been that sort of boastful at this age, right? And you love to see it. He is a gamesman, right? Like, he loves it. He just soaks it up, and you gotta like that. Whether you hate him or like him, he just always has this feeling like he's better than you, and for the most part he is. And, he's going to do what he wants. And you can keep crying all you want, but there's not much you can do. And I thought that was pretty funny. As a Mavs fan, Dirk was always so quiet, right? And reserved, even though you knew he was ready, right? But Luka just gives it back to people. As a Mavs fan, you feel like he's kind of talking on your behalf. So you love it, right? And then we get to about 1:51 is when Kyrie hits this big 3 in the corner. Then there is the altered shot in the block by Lively I'd mentioned earlier. Comes down, Kyrie gets a fast break layup. That's 5 straight points by Kyrie that I thought that was essentially icing on the game. Then we come down. Luka plays some good D. Guy tries to back him down. He kind of pulls the chair out from him just a little bit. And again, I think Luka's D is overhated. He's not a stopper, but he can move his feet when he wants to, keep a guy in front of him, and be enough on the defensive end, right? I think he got cooked in that one Phoenix game, and people might have felt like, well, he's totally exposed. If you remember, they tried to come back the next game and do it again, and they literally didn't score on Luka at all the next game when they were trying to go after him, correct? So Luka's not that bad of a defender. I think, last year when I was doing streams, I mentioned that I thought his defensive footwork and attention to detail was way better than it had been the year before, right? That was something I had noticed last year. Gets a little hurt, gets a little banged up, season kind of doesn't go your way, goes a little south. The effort on the defensive end can lack a little bit. I get it from his superstar maybe point of view a little bit. That's just my 2 cents. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it that maybe the energy on the defense slipped a little bit. Again, last night he looked engaged. In this particular play, a guy takes him one-on-one, stays in front of him the whole time. He kind of gets him below the free throw line. He kind of pulls the chair out a little bit. The defender, kind of falls down just a little bit. Lively collapses, loses the ball. We go the other way. And I believe this is where Lively got either an offensive tip or a rebound, gets it back to Luka, and Luka hits that step-back 3 that, of course, we all have seen by now.
Shot clock at 4. Doncic. The step-back 3. You bet! As Jason Kidd likes to say, is a bad man throwing daggers in Texas.
And that was that. The last minute 15 of the second quarter and the last 3 minutes, last 3:30 of the fourth quarter. That was the game. Those 5 minutes, that was the game by far. Not even close, right? And it was just amazing sequence of events in those 2 spots, right? And I thought ultimately we could watch those 5 minutes, and that was, you can watch the rest of the game and pick up stuff, but you don't need to see any other parts of the game other than that 5 minutes. And that was the game ultimately. That was all the momentum. That was, I think, the better team coming together at the right time. It was everything we as Mavs fans wanted to see, right? And even if you were looking back and you're not a fan of either team, you would still agree those 5 minutes, if you're watching the game, that was the game. That was the difference. That was the Mavs struggling, putting it together right at the last minute in the second quarter. Again, a lot of outgoing pieces, a lot of new incoming pieces. We're kind of experimenting the whole first half, seeing what works. We're struggling a little bit. Luka's kind of doing his best to keep us in the game. Hardaway, again, has 15 points in the first quarter, essentially. And that kind of keeps us alive. And the end of that second quarter, it was just like it clicked. Or at least we knew we could do it, right? All right, well, now we've seen it. We've seen what kind of these new pieces can do, along with the guys we kept that, in Luka and Kyrie, Green, and other guys that we know can play, right? And that was it. I felt like that was the momentum shift of, okay, we can do this. Like, these guys, Williams and Lively, came to play. Like, that's what it was at the end of that second quarter, and it continued into the second half. And that's what I'm hoping the rest of the year will be Williams and Lively came to play. And if that happens, this is a tough team, man. And I think if you throw Green in, again, Green just needs to be a guy running around playing D, right? I want dunks and defense. They have 3 and D. I want dunks and D from Green. That's what I want from him. And his 3-point shot's gotten better too, right? So I think that 5, if they play like they did last night, it's a big what if, 1 game sample size. But it was an amazing game, and the main takeaway was, I noticed Jason Kidd, the things I mentioned earlier, but the main takeaway is the guys that we went out and got and that we targeted, we drafted, we signed, we re-signed, they all did what we want them to do, what they were signed to do, what they're on the team to do, what we need them to do, what we want them to do. That is it. That is hitting, you know what I mean? If we're going to do this, if you're going to win rings or what have you, you have to hit. The plan has to go according to plan, right? In a way. And Williams and Lively look like they are ready to fill the gaps that we have so bad on this team, and they're ready to excel at it, right? All-stars, maybe not, probably not. But for our team, will they be all-stars in terms of what those few things we need them to do are? Those holes and those gaps that we missed so bad last year and that this team desperately needs? I think they're ready for it. That's the main takeaway, right? So that's my video. I know it was way longer than I want it to be, so if you're still listening, I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll keep doing Mavs games. I'll keep doing breakdowns. If you guys want me to do some other games or something, I can look at it, do my best, right? So yeah, that's my video. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week, Monday, Wednesday. We'll do the streams for the Mavs games, and I'll try to give a breakdown of those as well. So see you guys on the next one. Go Rangers.